Hey ladies and gentlemen, Javier here with The Real Javier Novoa, channel, a platform, and a modality where we apply the principles of philosophy, spirituality, mysticism, and business, and good strategic planning to rapid lifestyle transformation. Today I just wanted to tackle two great topics from a great author, a great man of business, actually a scion of the pharmaceutical industry, and someone who knows these principles consciously, someone from whom I've benefited from his books, the great Trevor Blake. And if you haven't read the books of Trevor Blake, I think the main ones are the only ones. Number one would be Secrets of a Successful Startup. And he talks about starting a business from an unorthodox point of view, and indeed, from a point of view of someone who knows the principles of law of assumption, law of attraction, and a lot of great principles in there, such as watch your cash flow very closely. In fact, cash flow issues are the number one kiss of death, so to speak, for many businesses. Also, he talks about in there, you start a business based upon something that really annoys you, and while it's a very true topic, it's a very good way to find ideas. There are other ways for finding ideas. It's a good rule of thumb. If you look at many entrepreneurs, you look at Steve Jobs, he was like heating up a burrito or something, and he said, it really pisses me off that Apple is doing such and such, and he spawned a new idea from that. Also, if you look at Elon Musk, he really has humanity's interest, it seems like, in mind, and it just pisses him off that there's not some effort to get humans out into space, off Earth, and so that's what he is driving him, so to speak, as well as the AI thing. And many others, Thomas Edison, many others who have problems that they want to solve. Trevor Blake touched upon that. But the main book, and the one that I think you should start with because it gets to the nitty-gritty and because it gets to the source of everything we're trying to do, is called 5 Simple Steps. And it basically goes into the steps to balancing your life and getting out of what he calls the quicksand. It's what we teach here on this channel as well. And of course he talks about meditations, what we've been talking about since the beginning of this channel. He talks about getting into nature. He talks about mentality control, and that's the step that we want to talk about today. There are actually two things we want to talk about today. Mentality control and making commitments. And either of these can be misunderstood. They can be construed into a law. And remember, there is no law in this, because once you try to make it into a law or work or task, then you're working against yourself. But definitely if you use these in the positive method, if you use them as tools, for example, if you buy a beautiful hammer, it could work for you and it could be very comfortable for you. But if you tell yourself, I have to use this hammer, it's a sin if I don't use this hammer and use another hammer, then I'm probably not going to get the job done. So the tools here, the first tool is mentality control. And I want to give it a little caveat here, and I want to call it mentality observation, because you see, this all goes into your vibration, your state of thought. I released a video yesterday about this, about how to get back into vibrational harmony. I do hope you watch it. I take you into a guided meditation, so to speak, getting into presence. But mentality control, I think it should be called mentality observation. And it's basically you observe where you are on that emotional vibrational scale, and you make an effort to have a better thought. Now, the best way to do this is by the indirect method, not trying to control it, so to speak, not getting mad at yourself that you do have a negative thought, because lo and behold, in the ultimate scheme of things, there are no negative or positive thoughts. They're just what's going on, it's what's going through you. But you observe your thoughts, you ask yourself how it feels, and then you can do something about that. And depending upon the frequency, depending upon the strength of that thought, depending upon the content and so forth, there are many things you could do. Trevor Blake goes into the simple example of, well, if you're broke, for example, and you're thinking about, I'm broke, you don't kick yourself for having that positive thought. Rather, you say, okay, that thought is there, but now I can have another thought. And the other thought is going to be, I'm completely out of debt, and now I'm buying myself a bottle of Dom Perignon cash and celebrating with that. And that may get you out of that. The other way to get out of it, depending on whether you are, is to get into an alpha state. The other way is to get into presence. But what you're training yourself to do is to observe and recognize those thoughts. That's what you're training yourself to do. And when you observe and recognize those thoughts, the alternatives will come to you. They'll be presented to you. That's the first step. And we're going to be using that this week as we go into strategic planning. Because you'll want to start your strategic planning sessions off on a good foot. You'll want to be vibrationally in resonance, because the better resonance vibrationally you're in, the more likely you're going to get into flow. And flow is the state that's going to carry us across the finish line in this planning. The second little quality, the second tool, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's such an important tool, and I'm going to have you do this in the beginning of October. I'm going to have you do this on October 3rd. Is that, you see, rituals, some law of assumption and law of attraction coaches frown on rituals because they say, well, it makes you rigid and so on and so forth. And that can happen. And if you approach it as an obligation or a law, then that can happen. Another problem is that if you do a ritual and you're not present with it, then soon your brain will become numb to it. It'll just become part of the tapestry of what you're doing. You might not get a lot of traction on that. You see in religious traditions, like in Islam, Islam has 5 daily prayers, 5 salawat, and it encourages its adherents to be completely present during that salat, to be completely focused. Because if you don't and you're just going through the motions, well, as neuroscientists talk about, that ritual will simply be vitiated. It'll simply become a part of the tapestry of your day, won't have any effect on you. But if you can have these rituals be significant and symbolize a turning point for you, you see, we as humans are very ritual-driven creatures in as much as we are physical. So it's useful to have. And his ritual he talks about, sometimes he goes to a beach. And I'm going to be, when we start this, I'm going to be on the beach, ladies and gentlemen, and hopefully we'll guide you through this ritual. But he basically says, bring your favorite drink, have something to write on, and basically make a commitment to yourself. And say, I commit now to attaining this intention. And of course, the intention that we're going to be going towards now is getting completely free from a job and a boss, getting free from the prison grid, having financial freedom, ladies and gentlemen, within a year. And hopefully a lot sooner than that. For many of you, it will be a lot sooner than that. But you want to write this down, and then as Napoleon Hill said, you'll want to write, he called it the price you're going to pay. But of course we know there is no price that you're going to pay unless you see this price as something life-giving. Of course we pay prices, but metaphysically there's no price to pay. But if this is something that drives you and inspires you, then you can go ahead and do it. Say, the price I'm going to pay is, just very simply make a commitment to observe yourself very closely throughout the day, especially in the beginning of this. You know, Joe Dispenza talks about this. He says, observe your thoughts, observe your reactions, observe your actions, and then you'll feel whether or not it's on or off your path, and then you can self-correct. Be on that. Don't get crazy about it, but do be the observer in your daily life. Remember, one great spiritual teacher, I remember David Icke, he said this: if you can go for 30 days, I believe it is, or 90 days, and observe yourself completely and be as the consciousness, as the space throughout your daily life, you're going to basically be completely conscious and your life is going to change if you can do this for a few days. We're going to encourage you to do this in the early days of the planning preparation. Remember, we're still in preparation for the plan, and you should have a very good idea of what the first stage is going to be like. For the next 3 days or so, we're going to basically finish up this preparation phase. Remember, even if you haven't started anything, it's fine, because the real meat of the issue is coming up here on October 3rd. I encourage you to join me in that so that we can basically unite our consciousnesses and we can help one another energetically in that. We're going to be starting the strategic plan. We're going to be starting the first 6 months of the iteration phases, where you're going to be brainstorming, where you're going to be finding streams of income, and where you're going to be setting up the infrastructure to test those. And that's what you're going to be doing in the first 6 months. Then the second 6 months, you're going to be learning how to implement them and implementing them so that you can have that machine on and you can turn in your 2 weeks notice on October 3rd, 2024 from your job if you so choose, and you can have your complete free schedule doing what you want to do, doing what you came for, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you so much for watching, guys. Follow us for the rest of the week. Subscribe if you feel the channel's benefiting you, if you want to join the community of Master Manifestors. Until very soon, this is Javier with great love and appreciation from the real Javier Novoa, signing off. We'll see you very soon. Much love and appreciation.